Welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how you can determine quantiles or quartiles, quintiles, decentiles, whichever you want, because all of those are actually special cases of quantiles using Microsoft Excel and specifically for non-numerical data, in which case you can't use the built-in functions. So to show you how this can be done, I have some data in column A. So that's agree to disagree, etc. And the first thing I of course do is I list all those options and I give each category a numerical number going from the smallest to the largest. I also set my probability value, which is for my quantiles. So for example, if I want the first quartile, I'll simply set this to 0.25, as in 25%. If I want the first quintile, I'll simply do 0.20%. Then I determine the sample size. As you can see, I've done a count A, including the A, because it's non-numerical, but because I do have a column header, I subtract 1 so that I actually get the correct count. Then I need to sort all these scores, and the way I'm going to go about this and actually make them numerical is I first actually find from each of these which corresponding category they're in. So I can use simply a VLOOKUP for this. So this is going to look up in this value in this table. I'm separating by semicolon, perhaps in your system it's a comma, dollar sign, so that if I copy paste it down it won't change, so these will not change, so it will always look it up in exactly this table. I want to see the second column, so this is the first and this is the second, and I only want exact matches, which means I put in a 0 for the last parameter. I can then just copy paste this down, use the autofill handle for that, or Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and it nicely gives me the numeric values of each of these. Then I'll type in a 1 over here and use a fancy function. I simply need the numbers 1 to 8, so this is a complicated way of doing this. You can also just type all the other ones in, or just do an autofill thing. But if you want to use a function for it, I'm checking if this is not empty. If it's empty, just return empty. Otherwise, check if the highest number so far, +1, would be bigger than my sample size. If that's the case, then just don't do anything, and otherwise show me that highest number and add 1. Actually, don't show me, determine the highest number and add 1. And now I have 1 to 8. Lastly, I then can use a function called small, which again first checks if it's not empty, and otherwise it's going to look at the smallest and then which smallest, so the first smallest number, so the smallest for the first one, and then the second smallest, so this will return the second smallest from these, and in the end, if I copy paste this down, I actually have the same numbers as here, but now sorted from low to high. So it's a complicated way of actually sorting. You could of course also just first sort these, and then these will already be sorted, and then you don't have to do all of that. Alright, so I've done that. Then I need to determine the quantile index. So there are different IDs about this. I'm not going to go into the details about all of that because otherwise this video will be way too long. These are all the different formulas, and for quartile specifically there's even 2 extra options, the inclusive and the exclusive one. I've listed them all over here. It's simply each time something has to deal with that proportion and the sample size. And for example, if we then use the sus1 method, it's going to be index 1.6. That's just for the quantile index. And then we need to find the corresponding value of that index. But as you might notice, not all of these are integers, and we only have values for number 1, number 2, number 3, case 4, 5, 6, etc. So what we're going to do is, I first of all the way down here, I copy pasted these indexes. So this is simply a reference to earlier on over here. I first determine if it's actually an integer. So is it an int? Can simply be done with an equal sign. If I round the value, will it be the same? Alright. Now, if that's true, it's actually going to be very easy because then we can simply use this one. So I could make this easier with a very long if statement, but I just left it in for convenience. The next thing is, alright, so if this is false, what I'm going to do is I'm going to round this down to 0 decimals. And otherwise, I'm simply going to just use this one. And here I've done the same, but now I round it up. So I basically get the value between 1 and 2, so between index 1 and index 2. Then I'm going to find which number corresponded with those indexes. So for example, here I have 2 and 3. And what I'm doing is I'm going to actually find this 2 in all of this. And the way I've done that is I'm using an index match. So I'm going to index the D column, so the D values, which are these, and then match that specified value, in this case the 2, in the range of indexes. It should be an exact match, so that's why the last parameter is again a 0, and that gives me then the numeric value of that lower index. We can do the exact same thing with the upper one, so then we have the values that actually correspond to these indexes, and these are always integers. Then I need to find the corresponding label. For that, I can again use this index and match, and now I'm going to look up that number, and I'm going to look it up in here, and it should match, well actually I want to return the row that matches the number over here. So that gives me those. And then finally I can check if these two, if they are the same. So for example here they are the same, then it's simply going to be a disagree. But if they're not the same, it needs to be between this value and that value. So then I write between this and that. And I can do that in a function simply by an if. So if they are the same, then simply return and this one, and otherwise write between and then an and sign, and then this one, comma, and then notice here there's space between those and at the end of and, so that it actually has spaces also when you show it. So there we go, and that's how we can actually do this. It's a bit odd it doesn't find this one, because it works for all the other ones. So why is it not finding? It has the wrong find to. That's strange, because this is a 2 and that's a 2. So alright, I will adjust the Excel spreadsheet to figure out why this. It's probably doing with something with rounding. So index match round 0, will that work? Yeah, that works. So that might be better to use, because sometimes Excel doesn't round something even though it is actually rounded. So I can say round this one, and then it actually round to 0 decimals. And now this one also works. Copy paste it. These last few are not working because this is only for quartiles and we were asking a quintile. Alright, I hope this was helpful and thank you for watching.